All right, welcome. Today I'm here with Rachael Weaver, and we are going to be talking about finding and connecting into your authentic magnetism and finding your true voice through your human design, and really getting into how to write more compelling copy and content that actually converts and connects you to your ideal clients. All right, welcome, Rachael. And just a quick introduction, Rachael Weaver combines human design and conversion copywriting to help spiritual entrepreneurs clarify and amplify their soul's message so that they can grow their business in alignment with who they are. Welcome, Rachael. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm just delighted to have this conversation. I love talking with people. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're a colleague and friend of mine, and we had talked months ago about you wanting to weave these things together and how you were starting in on this. I have not seen any other copy or content writers do this. So I was just in love with this concept from the get-go. And so before we dive fully in, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you came into human design or weaving the content and all of that, and just kind of your journey to where you are now.
Yeah. So I started conversion copy and being a copywriter about 2.5 years ago, and had found human design maybe a year before that. And it was in learning copy and how to write words that sell that I realized that things weren't like, there was something missing, right? Like you could click all the boxes and it still wouldn't necessarily sell. That there was like this energetic piece, right? And human design really showed me how to be myself and like how to decondition the things that I thought were wrong with me. And they allowed me to have more confidence in my own voice and what I was sharing. And so then started applying it to conversion copy and like how, so basically it's, you need to show up authentically as yourself, but we also need to meet our clients where they're at with what they're thinking and feeling and wanting, right? And so you blend these two, is you blend who you are and being really clear so that people understand you and want to buy from you. And that is what creates authentic magnetism.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I feel like so many people are like, I'm putting everything into it, but they're not speaking in a way to their ideal clients or even to their human design that creates that magnetic connection. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what human design is and or are maybe new to it, could you go into a little bit of like what each type is and what the hows and whys of human design?
Definitely. So first off, like human design is based off of your birth chart or your birth date and time. So it spits out a chart for you. And it's basically your energetic blueprint based on the chakras, based on astrology and the I Ching. It's like a combination of those. And it kind of it gives you an idea of how your energy works with the world, how people interact with you as well as you interacting with them. And there are 5 types, and those are manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. And they do each have a different way of being, really. And I find for the most part, most of the clients, if you're a manifestor or a projector, there's a lot of deep conditioning you have to, because you've been conditioned as a generator. Majority of the population are generators, and that they're the people that are like, do the work and you get the thing, right? Like that's how our whole society has been set up. Do the work, you get the thing. And manifestors and projectors don't work like that. That's not why they're here. And even manifesting generators, that's not why they're here either. So it's really understanding and unpacking each type and their aura and how it's either penetrating or maybe it's enveloping or maybe it's attracting in different ways. So do you want me to like specifically go into each one?
Yeah, let's do a little bit on each for those who may not know.
Okay. So manifestors it's about a vision. They are here to get the party started in a lot of ways. They're very big and bold personalities. They have a way of seeing things and they're like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if we did this, right? That's what their message needs to be around. They need to be the conductor on a train, taking people to a destination. And their offers are different train stations along the way, but they're ultimately taking people to this new big vision idea of what they have. And they trust the conductor to get them there, right? For the generators, it's about a repeatable process that over time is honed and mastered. So they're going in and they're giving you step by step, this is how you do the thing, right? But it really has to light them up. We can't just have generators going out and doing things because we say you should do. Not the point. We need to have them doing something that feels really the sacral yes, right? They have a defined sacral, so they need to feel like, yes, this is what I want to do. The manifesting generator is the person that goes out and like shiny objects. We can all have shiny object syndrome, but MGs are a lot of like, ooh, squirrel, ooh, this, I want to try this, I want to try that, I want to try all the things. Like, I'm so excited, I want to do all the things. Totally what we're supposed to be doing. I'm an MG. We are supposed to be diving in and doing lots of different things, but we need to be really make sure that what we're giving our energy to, we have the energy for. So not necessarily diving in on the first initial go. We need to kind of, I call it marinating. And like, if it's a big decision, if it's a big decision that you need to make, sit on it for just a little bit and make sure that you kind of look at it from all different angles and go, do I have the energy for this? Is this something I want to do? And then going into it. And in their messaging, it's all about how they're combining those different things that have lit them up along the way to something new and different. And kind of like, what's a new way of approaching something with this combination that you have? The projectors are the seers. They have the penetrating aura. People need to be ready for your energy. And manifestors and manifesting generators hate being told what to do, especially by projectors. So it's really important for projectors to share their story. It's your story of how you've healed something, achieved something, done something that ultimately leads to a system that you've created, a new way of seeing how to solve a problem. That's what's important. So you're sharing your story and how do you solve a problem in a unique way. And sharing from the big thing I see with projectors is seeking validation and worthiness from their work. We can all fall into this trap, but especially for projectors, I find that seems to be the biggest hang up, is that they're going, I put this out there, I put my heart into it, and no one's responding. Like, do you need them to respond?
Yeah.
Or are you confident in what you're doing? And a lot of times it's like, oh, I needed them to respond. And that's fine. It's all a learning process, right? Like, there's no shame in where you are. It's just, oh, I was. And so how can you shift that to something greater?
Yeah, that's an important, I want to plop in and say, just because I'm a projector and I know that feeling of wanting to like know that the work that you're doing is good, and getting a coach who knows you, sees you, and knows how to validate like, this is great and keep going, or a mastermind or like peer group or whatever, to have that validation to where you're not seeking it from your clients or the world, but you're getting that energetic fill.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you can keep going. Because I think for me personally, it's not so much about needing it on a like psychological level. It's more just like, is this working or is it not, kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
So
you're like, am I wasting my time here?
Yeah. Or because people can feel like that. I'm sure a lot of people resonate where they're like, I'm doing all the things and why is it not converting, or why is no one engaging or reaching out, kind of a thing. So
yeah. And there's, I think we tend to immediately think that it's us when things aren't working. And that's not necessarily true. It's not something you personally, it could be just in the way the copy is written. It could be, I mean, there's so many different things. And I think sometimes we automatically jump to like, it's me.
Mhm. Yeah.
The reflectors are, so they have all open centers, which means they absorb everything in and then amplify it back. So they're a mirror to what's happening, which means that they really can understand what's happening on an energetic level. And they have a lot of wisdom to share in how people need to shift, need to change. So one, self-care is really important for, I mean, it's important for everybody, but definitely for projectors and reflectors. And then community. If the reflector doesn't have a community that wants, or makes them feel good, then they need to create it themselves. Like, what kind of community can you create that feels really, really good and supportive to the wisdom that you see, right? So those are the 5 types, and kind of how I help clients structure their message so that it works with their aura and what their energy is going out into the world doing.
Yeah, it's so powerful to know that about yourself and have that blueprint, as you say.
Mhm.
And in regards to this, when someone is a manifestor generator or a projector, I think you also speak to this more in depth in your programs and when you work with people around how to write your copy in a way, like for me with a projector, it's like telling a story and inviting people and waiting for them to ask for help or whatever that
Yeah.
process is. But also how to use it to speak specifically to like a projector to a manifesting generator. So it speaks to them. Because I think that is some of the work that you do too, is knowing how to speak to your audience
Mhm.
in the way of their human design.
Yeah, well, that's actually a really good question, because somebody's, I mean, been asked before of, do I speak in my energy blueprint, or do I speak so that I'm attracting manifesting generators or projectors? And by and large, first, it's your energy type. You can add in like, I invite you to, like, everybody wants to be invited, especially the projectors, right? Or asking questions. I tell generators and MGs to be conversational. So asking questions along the way to get that sacral response going for people. Anyone can do that. Anyone can make it conversational along the way. But by and large, it's about you. The piece that becomes more of like how to speak to your ideal client in a clear way is more the conversion copy. And that's where that piece comes in. So how are we clearly using the words that they use? Are we talking about their struggles or frustrations the way they do? Are we talking about their desires the way they do? Those types of things. And that's really what makes them go, oh, you see me, you get me, is you're using my language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't use their exact language, it's not gonna hit the same way and it's not gonna resonate.
Yeah.
And where they're like, are they reading my mind or is
Yeah.
this? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so how you've touched on this quite a bit, but how do you normally use human design to help your clients connect to their true voice and to write better content? And
Yeah.
because we've kind of touched on this too, I guess it's more if maybe you could go through each human design and how they could best write their copy. And again, you've touched on this a little bit, but if you could elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, we start with the types, but when I'm working one-on-one with clients, and which is why I work one-on-one with clients, it's because it's a lot deeper about like Mercury Gates, what centers you have defined and undefined, as well as like your incarnation cross and your purpose, right? It's these pieces. The Mercury Gate is how you communicate. Mercury is all about communication, right? So what gate is in your Mercury planet in your chart, and looking at the energy of that? And it's not so much like words. It's not going to translate to words per se, but it's going to translate to an energy. How am I showing up in this energy to communicate more clearly? The throat is also really important. Obviously, it's where you speak. It's where we bring things. In human design, they call it bring things to manifestation. It's not like law of attraction manifesting. It's just like um, it's creating the world with your words. And so what words are you speaking? What gates within your throat are activated, as well as is it defined or undefined? People with an undefined throat feel an intense pressure to always be talking, always. They just want to talk, 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 talk. If they don't talk, no one's going to listen, right? Versus somebody with a defined throat is a little bit more comfortable to just kind of talk, and not feel a pressure that like, if I don't talk, no one's going to listen, right? So that when I'm working one-on-one, we dive into those more specifics, and each person's going to be different. So you have the type in how you structure the message. So manifestors about the vision, generators about the repeatable honed mastery, the MG in how you combine things, the projector is your system and sharing your story, the reflector is what community are you building. That's the baseline. And then we add in the other deeper pieces of your chart to make it more specific as to like, what is this message? I'm terrible about, I should get examples and just like have them out, because I feel like that's so helpful, but I'm terrible about pulling it out of my butt. But does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And there is a big element, I know I've learned in business coaching and my own personal journey with being online and writing content, where energy behind what you're writing, how you feel about it, and how you're trying to connect with people is huge. And it's something that isn't really talked about mainstream. I think it's kind of more behind closed doors because it's a little more maybe on the woo-woo side. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around the energetics of the human design and writing content, because I know for me, especially in the beginning of my coaching practice going online, it's like I just wanted it so bad, and like coming from this place of like wanting to help, but energetically I think it was really repelling people in a lot of ways, that they're like, oh, maybe I'll come back later kind of a thing. But really it was just because I had so much behind it, so much charge and passion and emotion and stuff. So I'd love to hear a little bit more from you around your thoughts around the energetics behind where someone is coming from, whether it's specific to their human design and or how that carries over in your content or copy, and how that can affect the potential client.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. The energy behind it matters like 90% of the time, or 90% of the equation, right? So, and I feel like I kind of even understood this from my own experience and looking back on things and going, why did something fail? Or why did that launch not go well? Why was the content not being, getting the engagement that I wanted, right? And thinking more about like, what did I expect prior to? And I think that's really a number one key question, is what are you expecting out of this right out of the get-go? If I'm writing this and I expect someone to do what? And that right there, I think, puts pressure and an energy on something that people feel, and they don't like, so hard to even like put into words, but it's like, if I expect, then I'm probably going to be let down, because the universe doesn't work that way, right? And I think even within the spiritual community, there's this idea that you declare and you say, this is what I expect. But yet there's an energy there that, like, I think expect is the wrong word, because we're not leaving it open to possibility and bigger things that could come out of it, because we have limited it to what we believe is possible, right? So instead of like, I expect something, this piece of content to do whatever, I like to just first sit and like envision them or my ideal client reading it and going, oh, this feels like, what does she feel? What do I want her to feel when she's reading it? I feel that. And then releasing it to like the highest good of everybody and just letting it go out and do what it needs to do. That, to me, I can expect that, yes, I am successful. I'm going to be even more successful, right? But I don't expect my content, specific pieces of content, to do anything other than what they're supposed to do in terms of what the universe has in store. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And yeah, I love everything you said about this, because this is a huge one. I am guilty of doing the things, all of the things. And I know people watching in on this can feel it too. But there's a, whether you've been taught this by other coaches of like, no, you decide and you do the thing. And there's an attachment. And especially if you are in a place in your business where you need the money to come in, or you're like really, there's a lot of energetic charge, negative charge, emotional charge, and attachment to an outcome, when really the content you're putting out is to help educate, to help inspire, to help identify who you are, how you help. And so your clients can find you. And when I know I've done this in the past where I would be writing content because I had something to say, I'm a projector. I like had something to say, and I wasn't taking into account how it was going to make people feel. Because I was coming from a place that, like, this was during the Trump elections. I will own this, but I was saying things that were because I was like making a point, and it was like making it clear where I stood, and thinking I was like taking a stand for something, but in reality, I wasn't actually really being with what I was like. I knew where I was coming from and my intention, but I wasn't in the other side of it, of how it was actually going to be impacting and how it would feel for the people reading it. And I think that's a big piece that a lot of people miss, is they're so attached to the outcome and getting it right and saying it perfect and following the content, call to action and rhythm of how you're supposed to write posts, that they're missing the feeling aspect and the connection aspect. And I know I definitely, that's been a learning curve for me around taking the time, because writing content is time consuming. And whether it's a short post or long post, when in this context, like if you actually take the time to be clear of who you're speaking to, using their words, sitting in how they're going to feel, sitting with what you're really saying and with clarity, and then letting go of the outcome, it's huge. It's like, it's almost like in a relationship when you're like first dating someone, and you're like, do they like me? Is it going to happen? And you want, certain outcomes. And there is an element of this energetic, like putting it out there and then letting it go, and just trusting that as you stay consistent and you keep going, that you're going to attract the right people. Things are going to come, like the miracles and the miraculous, like people are going to come out of the woodwork and want to hire you. And you're like, where did this person come from? Because we've had that happen before. And so I'm really glad that you spoke to that, because I think, that piece of the energetic is huge. And I see this a lot with peers and other coaches. And I know I did this of myself, where when I needed money to come in, or different things, where when you start to put that energy on your content and onto potential clients, it is like repellent, and it comes off as needy and or pushy, or versus inviting, or like, this is an opportunity for you. So
well, and even important. You were talking about how you were content back during the Trump elections. You were very fired up, right? You were very like, I'm taking a stand. And that type of content, I think, number one, is in that way is hard as a projector. Not that you shouldn't take a stand, but the way that you went about it maybe is more manifestory, like I'm gonna be bold and blah and like blah. Versus being, this is what I see and this is why I think we need to change.
I like that reframe. That feels better for me too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
reframing, like it's not that you shouldn't be sharing your values and taking a stand. Absolutely. It's the energy that we put behind it and why you're doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. This makes me want to ask, this is like off topic,
Mm.
but connected. It's not really off topic, but can you speak into or your experience or kind of what we were just talking about around when people have these big emotional charges, whether it's attached to the outcome of, because we've all like been like, this post is amazing. And then it like flops and you don't get any, like anything. And you're like crying. You're like, I'm never going to be successful. Like, I think we've all been there. So can you speak to your experience personally or with human design around managing our emotions around expectations,
Yeah.
not making it mean we're broken if it's not like the slam dunk every time that we in our ego and our mind want it to be, and how to navigate that. Because I know if I would have done a better job checking myself during the Trump elections, like I felt like I was doing pretty good, but I got some feedback that said otherwise. But really, like I was emotionally like, fuck this guy, he sucks, like really like on one about it. So I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So number one, I 100% have attached myself to the outcome, not so much of the content, a little bit of the content, but the result of the client. And I was solely responsible, and my worthiness and my, all of that was tied up into, and even when I was doing photography, and I still like, if a client didn't say that they loved what I did, it meant that I wasn't very good. Or if somebody didn't hire me, that meant that I wasn't good enough. Or, right? Holy, check yourself.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's that validation seeking, right?
It's the
Sneaky.
validation thing. Like, it's not just a projective thing. Like everybody can fall into this trap. So for me, the shift happened when I started really detaching from the thoughts and going, that's an interesting thought. Am I, or, what, and even the emotions, am I giving this shameful feeling a meaning? What is it? What am I making this, whatever's coming up, mean about my business, mean about me, mean about whatever I'm doing? And that alone just helped me go, whew, I got some, and like just bringing to light that what I was doing was really, really being a bee to myself. And I didn't need to be. None of it was true. Right. So yeah, detaching from the thoughts and what am I giving meaning to these emotions? And for me, I can't remember. Do you know if your solar plexus is defined or undefined?
I believe it is defined because I have
So
the
your
splenic one.
Oh, your splenic projector?
Yeah.
Then it would be undefined then. Because if you were defined, then you'd be an emotional projector.
Okay. Yeah,
so with the undefined, it means you like absorb in other people's emotions too. And maybe you can tell when you're in someone's space, like how they feel emotionally in that moment, because you're like absorbing it in and mirroring it back to them. And so for me, it was, if I started to feel anxious about something, I had to go, is this mine even? Like, is this emotion mine? Because I would attach to emotions that weren't mine at all. There was something going on in the world, in the home, my kid was losing it or something like that, or like it was other, right? And even the client's emotion, if they were upset about something that was unrelated to our work together, I picked up on that and took that as mine and that it was my problem. So really detaching from that too was really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an element too where you'd mentioned this at the more at the beginning of our chat, that when you can speak into who your client is, and this is an ongoing journey for all of us, whether it's a new program or I mean, it's just, we can all accept as entrepreneurs that this is just, it will be a lifelong journey with figuring out who that person is and for each program or offer that you have and all of that. But I do think there is an element where when you actually can get on the phone with those people or really get into what they're saying and what they're wanting. When you start writing content, it can become more fun in that sense of like, playing around with it and having this sense of, I know who I'm speaking to, I know what they want, and I have the thing that can help them. So it's like really owning that piece of, I have the service that they need. So it shifts that dynamic of trying to find clients or trying to get the money or that kind of thing versus like, I have this thing that will help you. Do you want it or not? and having that. And I think that helps with the emotional piece too, because like you were saying, like whether or not you're picking up on energy from your clients or your, whoever you live with at home or whatever is going on in the world, that if we aren't checking in on those things like daily, how we can get so disconnected. Yeah, we can get disconnected from who is my ideal client. Like I have it written down because I'm like, wait, who am I talking to when I get on here? And so there is a big element of that around that emotional connection of holding that space for the other person, but keeping your own energy and space clean. And I think that is a huge piece for writing content around who am I speaking to? What am I feeling? How do I want them to feel? What am I trying to say in regards to what they're wanting and looking for? And it's it's like almost scientific, but also artsy at the same time of like, I think of those little Rubik cubes around, like, that's how I think about content and ideal client stuff. Cause it's a dance in so many ways. Yeah.
Well, and we have to keep in mind that one piece of content isn't going to get you a client.
I feel like you should repeat that for the people watching.
One piece of content isn't going to get you a client. It's a mash of lots of things and lots of different content and lots of different ways of saying something sometimes for it to click for somebody to understand. And the other piece that I think, we 100% forget that people need to hear things multiple times to get it. And they're not always in the right place the first time you post. So it's a combination of all the things, right? And even this is a thing for manifesting generators, because I talk a lot like combine, like what are you combining? How does it all relate? Your audience will like one thing over another. So like my audience loves talking about human design. They don't really care as much about the conversion copy, which I find fascinating.
Right. You're like, isn't that why we're all here?
Isn't that why we're here?
Yeah.
You want to learn how to write? But I think it's also that they have heard all of the conversion stuff, right? They've heard all of like the copy speak and they're like, it's not working. Give me something that's going to work. And so they're not even like, I put it out there, but it's like, meh, it doesn't land as well as the human design stuff. So, but it still needs to be a piece of content. It still needs to be out there. They still need to understand that it's a combination of things that go together. It's not just the one piece of it, right? So what I'm saying is that just because people aren't responding to stuff doesn't mean that they're not listening, and doesn't mean that it's not helping them go, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense to me, right?
Absolutely. That's huge. Like, I know for me personally, I've had people reach out to me and hire me as a coach. And I'm like, you've never even liked any of my content. And I'm like, where did you come from? But people are watching. They're always watching. They're taking in, even if they don't engage. And depending on what kind of posts that you write or what kind of work that you do, some people might not. Like, I know in the work that I do with women, because it is about deeper emotional healing and healing from, sensual and sexuality things, that a lot of people don't want to talk about it or admit it publicly. And so it's kind of like this little I call them my wallflowers, where they're there and they're taking in things, but they're not necessarily coming out with it. So this is also where, depending on what type of work that you are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think instead of looking at the vanity matrix, and I talked about this in my group about like, instead of looking at like how many people are commenting and how many people, how many followers have I gained or whatever, how about we look at like, how do I feel when I'm writing this content? What about the people that are coming to me, the ideal client? Are they ideal clients, right? The people that I am talking to, the people that are reaching out, are they the right fit? And there was one more. I lost it. So it's like, how do you feel? How are you feeling about the content that you're writing? And then gauging that on like, are the right people coming to you? That's really, the two main pieces like that you should be gauging content off of, not vanity matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is an element too. I really love Amanda Francis's mindset and work around this, where she talks about whether it's with money, with clients, with your business, with a partnership, where when you can bring the energy as if it's already so. So if you were writing content as if you were already successful, as if you already had the clients, as if you didn't have to worry about money, and you were coming from that place of like, I've got this is joyful, this makes sense. There is a different energy to it. And I think there, like you said, like the vanity stuff, like I actually don't really care whether like, I want people to engage so I can engage with them. It's not because I'm like, oh, I got 200 likes on this photo, because that doesn't really light me up. It's more like, did this inspire someone to take a different action, or to think differently, or to realize that they're ready for the next step or for coaching or whatever. So I think that's an important thing to really
I like that.
Dial into, is like, can I show up this way?
With
letting go of the outcome, trusting it's already on the way and it's already happening, and really getting into, it's almost like an inner authority. And I think that is part of owning your voice, is like, I'm going to say this no matter what, whether it takes me a day or a year or 10 years, like this is what I'm here to share with people, and and really getting your energy behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that being said, what has been your experience or in using human design with really owning your voice? And you had mentioned some of the open centers for certain people that like want to talk a lot, but whether personal experience or with your clients that you've seen of how human design has really specifically helped them dial into like, oh, this is how, when I can learn how to speak in certain ways or present in certain ways, where it really connects them and aligns into their voice.
I think it's when I do a chart reading for them and say like, this is really what your chart is saying about how you should be interacting and what you should be doing. And they go, oh, I've wanted to do that, but I've been afraid to do that for whatever reason.
Or even told by other coaches
not to do it that way or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's like a permission slip to be themselves. That's the way it was for me too. It's like, it's a permission slip to be myself and to understand myself in a deeper way than just like, I drink, a latte every day, or, it's some of those more like surface level things. I love dogs,
Right.
No one really cares.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I always felt like. It felt very surface level, and it could be, and I don't want surface level. I want deep with people. I want to know you. I want to see you, and I want to everybody to understand each other in a way that's non-judgmental. And you can just come to the table as you are, and that's perfectly acceptable, right? That's the you that I want. I don't fucking care what you drink. I don't care if you like cats or dogs.
Those are the posts that get engagement, but they're not, it's not someone really showing up in that authentic magnetism. Like, this is why I'm here and this is what I have to say.
Yeah. And I think that even like, I don't know, at least for me personally, like, don't even go there. Like if you're really struggling to get your audience back to engaging with you, maybe, but I think it's fluff, and there's enough out there already.
So much fluff
and so much distraction. It's like, I don't want to distract you, at least, and that's kind of in my chart too. It's like, we're not here to fluff around. I'm here to help you change your perspective on what you're doing. And fluff doesn't do that. So it's really hard for me to do that kind of stuff. But I think that's really in my chart.
Yeah, which is awesome. I love it. Well, with that being said, what do you got going on right now? How can people find you, reach out to you, or work with you?
Come join my group. My
It's
Facebook
awesome,
group is,
by the way. I'm in there. I'll see you there.
I love it's so much fun. It has been, oh my gosh, I just love it so much. And so it's Aligned Copy Posse. And right now I don't have any trainings coming up. So I work either one-on-one for 4 months, or I also do a 90-minute intensive to unpack your human design chart. So that's what I'm doing right now with clients, but there's going to be more coming in a few months. So potentially a group. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But come join the group. That's where you need to be.
Yeah. And when this posts, I'll have the links for all of the things that they can connect with you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachael. It's been so fun having you today.
Thank you so much, Nicole.